We all use AI tools like ChatGPT to make our lives just a little bit easier, right? But what if that convenience, what if it comes at a cognitive cost? Okay, let's dive into this because a really fascinating new study from MIT is looking at exactly that, how these powerful tools are affecting our brains. I mean, it's a question a lot of us have probably had, maybe just in the back of our minds. Are we outsourcing too much of our thinking? Is there a real downside to having an answer for, well, everything just a few keystrokes away?
Well, according to this new research, the answer is a pretty resounding yes, and the findings are frankly startling. They suggest using AI doesn't just change how we work, it might actually be changing the way our brains process information altogether. What the researchers have found is something we could probably call an AI brain drain. It's this idea that when we rely on these tools, it can lead to a really significant drop in our own mental engagement. And get this, the effects are a lot more persistent than you might think. So here's the crucial part. This isn't just about your brain taking a little break while you're actively using ChatGPT. The study found that this reduced brain activity actually lingers. It negatively impacts your performance on future tasks, even long after you've closed the app. So how in the world did they figure this out? Well, the researchers came up with a really clever experiment to measure these effects directly, basically watching people's brains while they worked. They split participants into 3 groups, and they all had the same task: write some essays. The first group was brain only, absolutely no tech. The second group could use Google search, and the third group, they got access to a large language model, in this case, ChatGPT. It's a really simple, elegant way to isolate the impact of each tool. And to see what was actually going on inside their heads, they used an EEG. You can almost think of it like a fitness tracker, but for your brain. It measures all the electrical buzz of your neural activity, giving them a real-time picture of cognitive engagement and mental load. In other words, it showed them exactly how hard each brain was working. All right, now for the results. And the initial findings, just looking at what happened in the moment, were pretty stark. They revealed a really immediate cognitive cost to using AI. So the EEG data showed this incredibly clear pattern. The brain-only group, their brains were lit up, the most active by far. The Google search group showed a bit less activity, and the ChatGPT users, they showed the least of all. It was a direct correlation. The more tech help they had, the less their own brains were firing. And this wasn't just happening on a neural level. You could see it in the work itself. The essays that were written with AI were statistically very similar to each other. They just lacked the unique angles and creative differences you saw in the other groups. It's almost like the AI was sanding down the edges of human originality. The researchers also noticed this dramatic drop in what they called ownership. When they asked the ChatGPT users about their essays later, they really struggled to summarize their own arguments or even quote back things they had just written. It's like they were totally disconnected from the words on the page. But this is where the study gets really interesting. See, they didn't just stop there. They wanted to know about the longer-term effects, and that's what led to the most important discovery of the whole thing. So then the researchers swapped the groups, and the results were just stunning. The people who started with AI and then had to work on their own actually showed weaker connections between different parts of their brain. But the people who started with just their own thoughts and then got to use AI, they showed sharper memory and way more overall brain engagement. It turns out the order you do things in is everything. This quote from the paper just drives the point home. Over the whole study, the participants who leaned on the AI from the get-go consistently underperformed. And it wasn't just in one area. They did worse on every single level, from brain activity to the quality of their writing to their final scores. So what does this all mean for us? Well, the conclusion isn't that AI is bad. It's that we have to be a lot smarter about how we use it. The key, it seems, is to have it think with us, not for us. So the strategy that this research points to is this. Start with your own brain power. Do the hard work first. Think, brainstorm, structure your ideas. Then, once you've done that, bring in AI as a partner to help you refine or expand or check facts. The goal is to use it to assist your thinking, not to be the source of your thinking. Now, the researchers are quick to point out that this was a limited study, it had a small sample size, and more work definitely needs to be done. But they also stressed that this potential for a decrease in our fundamental learning skills is, in their words, a pressing matter that we really need to pay attention to as AI gets woven into every part of our lives. Which leaves us with a really critical question. This technology isn't going away. It's incredibly powerful and it's incredibly useful. But now that we have a better idea of the potential cognitive cost, it really forces us to be more intentional. So, how will you make sure you're using AI to make yourself smarter, not to replace being smart?